turn it on?
It's on. It doesn't have power.
Oh. Right here.
Oh, found it.
Yeah. Sorry, Zishan said he's running a little bit late.
Okay, we'll start.
So we can go ahead and start.
Yeah, sure. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم كن لوليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله. السلام عليك يا ابن رسول الله. السلام عليك يا ابن أمير المؤمنين وابن سيد الوسيين. السلام عليك يا ابن فاطمة سيدة نساء العالمين. السلام عليك يا ثار الله وابن ثاره والوتر الموتور. السلام عليك وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفنائك. عليكم مني جميعا سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار. يا أبا عبد الله. يا أبا عبد الله. لقد عظمت الرزية وجلت وعظمت المصيبة بك علينا وعلى جميع أهل الإسلام. وجلت وعظمت مصيبتك في السماوات على جميع أهل السماوات. فلعن الله أمة أسست أساس الظلم والجور عليكم أهل البيت. ولعن الله أمة دفعتكم عن مقامكم وأزالتكم عن مراتبكم التي رتبكم الله فيها. ولعن الله أمة قتلتكم ولعن الله الممهدين لهم بالتمكين من قتالكم. برئت إلى الله وإليكم منهم ومن أشياعهم وأتباعهم وأوليائهم. يا أبا عبد الله، يا أبا عبد الله، إني سلم لمن سالمكم وحرب لمن حاربكم إلى يوم القيامة. ولعن الله آل زياد وآل مروان، ولعن الله بني أمية قاطبا، ولعن الله ابن مرجانا، ولعن الله عمر بن سعد، ولعن الله شمرا، ولعن الله أمة أسرجت وأنجمت وتنقبت لقتالك. بأبي أنت وأمي لقد عظم مصابي بك، فأسأل الله الذي يكرم مقامك وأكرمني أن يرزقني طلب آثارك مع إمام منصور من أهل بيت محمد صلى الله عليه وآله. اللهم اجعلني عندك وجيها بالحسين عليه السلام في الدنيا والآخرة. يا أبا عبد الله، يا أبا عبد الله، إني أتقرب إلى الله وإلى رسوله وإلى أمير المؤمنين وإلى فاطمة وإلى الحسن وإليك بمغالاتك وبالبراءة ممن قاتلك ونسب لك الحق، وبالبراءة ممن أسس أساس الظلم والجور عليكم. وأبرأ إلى الله وإلى رسوله ممن أسس أساس ذلك وبنى عليه بنيانا وجرى في ظلمه وجوره عليكم وعلى أشياءكم. برئت إلى الله وإليكم منهم وأتقرب إلى الله ثم إليكم بموالاتكم وموالاة وليكم وبالبراءة من أعدائكم والناصبين لكم الحق وبالبراءة من أشيائهم وأتباعهم. إني سلم لمن سالمكم وحرب لمن حاربكم وولي لمن والاكم وعدو لمن عاداكم. فأسأل الله الذي يكرمني بمعرفتكم ومعرفة أوليائكم ورزقني البراءة من أعدائكم أن يجعلني معكم في الدنيا والآخرة وأن يثبت لي عندكم قدم صدق في الدنيا والآخرة، وأسأله أن يبلغني المقام المحمود لكم عند الله، وأن يرزقني طلب ثاريكم مع إمام هدى ظاهر ناطق بالحق منكم. وأسأل الله بحقكم وبالشأن الذي لكم عنده أن يعطيني بمصابيبكم أفضل ما يعطي مصابا بمصيبته مصيبا، ما أعظمها وأعظم رزيته في الإسلام وفي جميع السماوات والأرض. اللهم اجعلني في مقامي هذا ممن تناله منك صلوات ورحمة ومغفرة. اللهم اجعل محياي محيا محمد وآل محمد، ومماتي ممات محمد وآل محمد. اللهم إن هذا يوم تبركت به بنو أمية وابن آكلة الأكبار، اللعين ابن اللعين على لسانك ولسان نبيك صلى الله عليه وآله، في كل موطن وموقف وقف فيه نبيك صلى الله عليه وآله. اللهم لعن أبا سفيان ومعاوية ويزيد بن معاوية، عليهم منك اللعنة أبد الآبدين. وهذا يوم فرحت به آل زياد وآل مروان بقتلهم الحسين صلوات الله عليه. اللهم فضاعف عليهم اللعن منك والعذاب الأليم. اللهم إني أتقرب إليك في هذا اليوم وفي موقفي هذا وأيام حياتي بالبراءة منهم واللعنة عليهم وبالموالاة لنبيك وآل نبيك عليه وعليهم السلام. اللهم لعن أول ظالم ظلم حق محمد وآل محمد وآخر تابع له على ذلك. اللهم لعن العصابة التي جاهدت الحسين وشايعت وبايعت وتابعت على قتله. اللهم لعنهم جميعا. السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفنائك. عليك مني سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار، ولا جعله الله آخر العهد مني لزيارتكم. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين. اللهم خص أنت أول ظالم باللعن مني، وابدأ به أولا ثم الثاني والثالث والرابع. اللهم لعن يزيد خامسا، ولعن عبيد الله بن زياد وابن مرجانه وعمر بن سعد وشمرا وآل أبي سفيان وآل زياد وآل مروان إلى يوم القيامة. سجود. اللهم لك الحمد حمد الشاكرين لك على مصابهم. الحمد لله على عظيم رزيتي. اللهم ارزقني شفاعة الحسين يوم الورود، وثبت لي قدم صدق عندك مع الحسين وأصحاب الحسين الذين بذلوا مهجهم دون الحسين عليه السلام. صلوات. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وصلى الله على سيدنا ونبينا حبيب قلوبنا أبا القاسم المصطفى محمد صلى على محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين ولعنة الله على أعدائهم أجمعين من الآن إلى قيام يوم الدين ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. لقد قال الله الحكيم في محكم كتابه أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وأقم الصلاة طرف النهار وزلفا من الليل إن الحسنات يذهبن السيئات ذلك ذكرى للذاكرين. Recite under salawat. For the previous nights, we've been talking about trying to understand the logic behind Abu Abdullah Hussein's movement, right? And we also mentioned this, that based on the words that we have, the sermons that we have left from Imam Hussein alayhi salatu wassalam, he has defined the purpose of creation, nothing and nothing except to getting to know the Allah Almighty, to recognizing His existence, to actually getting connected with the Lord that we all praise. And then we actually mentioned the connections between every person's actions, the way they think, and the way they set up goals, right? And then we mentioned by looking at the different sermons, different words, different teachings of the Ahlul Bayt alayhi salatu wassalam, specifically speaking about Imam Hussein alayhi salatu wassalam, we can actually get a better understanding of how the infallible Imam actually saw the universe, right? How did they look at the world? And inshallah, by learning this, we can actually apply it to our own personal lives, and we can elevate ourselves just a bit more to get closer to the Allah Almighty, inshallah. You recite the third salawat. In continuation of the last topic, we mentioned one of the deeds which Imam Hussein alayhi salatu wasalam used to care for quite a bit, used to care for a lot actually. Used to care for so much that when he was asking for one more night of time from the army of Umar Assad, he mentioned, I want to spend that night only to recite the Quran, to do du'as and do my salats and prayers. We talked about salat briefly for the past 2 sessions, sharing some insights about the salat, and we mentioned that based on the clear verses of the Quran, ayahs of the Quran, إِنَّ الصَّلَاةَ تَنْهَى عَنِ الْفَحْشَاءِ وَالْمُنْكَرِ. The person who actually maintains the prayer, he will be prevented from doing evil and bad behavior or even sins. So today, inshallah, I'm going to give you one more benefit of salat, and this benefit I think is even greater than what we've been discussing for the past few nights. The ayah that I recited, it is the 114th ayah of Surah Hud 11. So 11:114. وَأَقِمِ الصَّلَاةَ طَرَفَ النَّهَارِ وَزُلَفًا مِنَ اللَّيْلِ إِنَّ الْحَسَنَاتِ يُذْهِبْنَ السَّيِّئَاتِ ذَلِكَ ذِكْرَى لِلذَّاكِرِينَ. Maintain the prayer at the two ends of the day and during the early hours of the night. Indeed, good deeds efface misdeeds. That is an admonition for the mindful. Recite another salawat. Now, before I get to actually translate this ayah, inshallah, as much as I can, let's have a little discussion about sin, about gunah, about right? What happens when actually people commit a sin? We all are human beings, right? We all make mistakes. It's just a given fact, right? So what happens when we actually commit a sin? When we take a look at the ayahs and riwayahs, right, we have a clear riwayah that tells us the person, a faithful person who is committing a sin, at the time of committing that action, he or she is not actually a faithful person. He or she is at the stage of ignorance. That will prove to us that there are two stages within every single one of us. A stage of being faithful and being aware and being in a stage of recognizing where we are at the presence of who we are, and the stage of ignorance in which we forget about everything. and we only focus on whatever short goal that we have in our minds. It says in the Riwayah, لا يزني الزاني حين يزني وهو مؤمن ولا يسرق السارق حين يسرق وهو مؤمن. As I mentioned, the Riwayah states clearly that when a person is, for example, stealing and he's a mu'min, he's a faithful, at the time that he's actually, performing the act of stealing, at that time he's not a faithful person. He is at the stage of ignorance. Now here, all the ulamas, they have made this sort of discussion about this to try to combine between iman and the stage of ignorance in one person. Because we say we are, for example, faithful, right? We are mu'mins, we are Shias, we are followers of the Ahlul Bayt. So how can this be reconciled with the ignorance that we can talk about when we actually commit a sin? They say we have this part which is called nafs. Some people translate it to ego, some people translate it to self, some people translate it to the I, the capital I that we refer to ourselves as a pronoun. When we want to say, I want this, I like that, right? We say it's inner part of us, which we call it nafs, right? Which kind of grows as we age and as we do different behavior, right? So this nafs, it has a very high capacities, very, very high potentials. It has limits so high and so above that, it actually goes higher than angels, right? Or it could be lower than animals. So it has both ways, right? So they talk about it, they say when actually someone commits a sin is when he is focusing on the very lowest part of his nafs. If you want to make levels of the nafs, right, as we go up and as we elevate more. So when we are committing a mistake, when we are committing a sin, we only focus on the very lowest possible, stages of nafs. In contrary, when we are actually doing a good deed, right, we are focusing on the highest end, the highest point of our nafs. So this is how they will actually get reconciled within the single body. Now, when we take a look at this ayah means that if someone does something good, his sayyat, his sins, his mistakes will get effaced, it will get erased, it will get washed away as if there is nothing there. So how is this possible again? They explain it that, as I mentioned, imagine the nafs as a scale existence, right? So it has level 1, level 2, level 2, all the way going up to the highest level, which you will get connected to Allah Almighty at the highest or at the top of the hierarchy of your nafs, right? So when we make the sins, right, it happens in a specific time, for example, right? For example, today in a given hour, we make a mistake, right? So at that time, during that, that hour, that specific hour, we focus on the lower part of our nafs. We focus on not even the nafs, we only focus on the surface of the dunya. That's what they say. You totally actually forget about yourself when you commit a sin, right? But the next hour, for example, you do something better. You do a salah. You do, for example, you recite the Quran. You help a brother out. You study hard. You do something for the sake of Allah, right? So the next hour, when you do a good conduct, when you actually perform a good act, what happens is your nafs, elevates itself and then goes up, right? It rises, right? So when it rises, all the stuff that you have done before that, it will be left alone. You're at the new stage, right? You have moved up one level, right? Like an elevator. When you go to level 1, right, and from level 1 you go to level 2, you don't see the level 1 anymore, right? So when you are doing a good conduct, you actually have raised yourself from the earthly matters, from the material matters, to spiritual matters, right? So when you raise yourself, all the sins, all the mistakes that you had, it will be left behind. So you go to new stage. But then again, we might make a mistake, right? So we come back down again. So we're at the stage, let's say 0 or even negative, right? Then we make a good act again, we go up again. And this continues every day, every week, every month, every year, right? And then we have these other acts such as doing majalis, which, it acts like a, very big eraser. It just erases up the whole thing and it will elevate you all the way up to the highest possible that you can think of within the hierarchy of nafs. Recite the salawat. And actually continue saying that as you elevate higher and higher and higher, you will reach the stage which is called the realm of Tawheed, the realm of unity, in which in this realm there is no sins, there is no mistakes, there is no misbehavior, there is no evil. Why? Because when you reach the realm of Tawheed, there is nothing there. I mean, because it's so high, none of the below items will be actually present at that realm. And that's actually where we have to go when we do our prayer, inshallah. So how can we get there? They say only and only by obedience and submission to the Sharia. What is the Sharia? The religious rules, right? The ahkam and the culture of Islam. So we have the wajibat and the mustahabat. We have the mandatory and obligatory acts and the recommended actions, right? So we have to kind of get in the habit of trying to implement the culture of Islam within our own personal life. And I know there's a lot of questions, a lot of challenges living in the West, talking about the identity, talking about raising family and having kids, talking about getting married, right? Talking about choosing a career, talking about the Islamophobia that's been happening. And I personally believe that all of this it can be easily resolved if we just implement and if we just follow the true Sharia of Islam, inshallah. And it's gradually, it's not going to happen overnight. It's something that we have to stand by, we have to have consistency, we have to be patient. وَاسْتَعِينُوا بِالصَّبْرِ وَالصَّلَاةِ, right? We have to be patient with it, and we have to keep up praying for it. Not only prayer, but all the good deeds, inshallah. So, when we talk about, for example, the different stages of gunaah and the highest possible that we can get as a human being, we said it's the realm of Tawheed. So what do you think will be the best repentance that we can actually do? As you know, there are so many things that they make other stuff clean or tahir, right? For example, water will purify najasa, right? We have another thing that we call it faith, iman. What does that cure? The shirk and the kufr, right? So the kafir, when he becomes a faithful, he becomes tahir. Why? Because we say when he becomes faithful, he actually witnesses and he admits the unity of God. He gets connected to the realm of unity. So when he goes that high, when he pays attention, when he focuses on the realm of unity, everything that he has done will get sort of vanish. All the evils that he has committed, all the mistakes that he has done, everything will get erased and it will get washed off. Now, the scary part, this is a good part, right? It will make the life a lot easier, but the scary part is it goes both ways. Meaning that we can either go up the hill or we can go downhill, right? So what's the downhill? Downhill is when you do a lot of good acts and you're a very faithful person, very sincere person, right? But then you start committing sin, more you start enjoying sin, even more the sin becomes part of your daily habits. Then what happens? Is it I have my good deeds on one side and then I'm just committing bad and evil acts, so they're just going to add up later on? The Quran tells us no. Those who actually do this, the evil that they perform is going to erase their good deeds as well. So it goes both ways, right? If you commit a sin, then do a good job, it will erase that one. If you do a good job, then do for example, an evil act, that will take care of your good deed as well. So we have to be careful on that part. So we have two processes, if you want to summarize it up. One, the nafs actually ascends, elevates, and then rises up high, right? Which means that we continue to do more good deeds more often, right? And then the other one is when the nafs descends, becomes even lower than the animalistic, ego, right? In that case, all the hasanat, all the good deeds that we have done will get erased and we will be left with all of the sins and mistakes that we have done. Do we have any ayahs of the Quran for this? We have quite a few. I have gathered, I think, 3 or 4 for you guys, and we have a lot of ahadith that actually backs up the idea of what we're talking about today. And as you know, we have 2 major resources, right, within the teachings of Islam. إِنِّي تَارِكٌ فِيكُمُ الثَّقَلَيْنِ, right? كِتَابَ اللَّهِ وَعِتْرَتِي كِتَابَ اللَّهِ وَأَهْلِ بَيْتِي, right? So we have 2 very strong, reliable sources that we can always rely on. What are those two? The Quran, the Ahlul Bayt, right? So whenever we want to find out if something is from the Islamic culture, we always have to refer back to these two major sources. Of course, when we talk about usul, they talk about the intellect as well, the aql and the ijma, which is, the summation of the verdicts of all the previous scholars within the Sharia. But that's a different topic. So what does Quran tells us? It says, وَالَّذِينَ لَا يَدْعُونَ مَعَ اللَّهِ إِلَهًا آخَرَ. Those people who do not call upon any God except Allah Almighty, وَلَا يَقْتُلُونَ النَّفْسِ, and they do not murder anybody, right? So number one, they do not perform shirk. They don't call to any other deity except God, except Allah. And number two, they do not kill or they do not commit murder. إِلَّا بِالْحَقِّ وَلَا يَزْنُونَ, and they do not perform adultery. وَمَنْ يَفْعَلْ ذَلِكَ يَلْغَ أَثَامًا. I'm going to continue. The next ayah says, إِلَّا مَنْ تَابَ وَآمَنَ وَعَمِلَ عَمَلًا صَالِحًا فَأُولَٰئِكَ يُبَدِّلُ اللَّهُ سَيِّئَاتِهِمْ حَسَنَاتٍ. So Allah is telling us, the people who do not do such and such and such act, He gives us three actions. Who do not commit the shirk, right? Who do not call upon a second God with Allah Almighty. That's number one. Number two, the ones who do not murder someone when it's an unjust act, an innocent soul. And number three, those who do not perform adultery, right? If these people, they have done anything else except this three acts, if these people repent and go back towards Allah, يُبَدِّلُ اللَّهُ سَيِّئَاتِهِمْ حَسَنَاتٍ. What does Allah will do for them? He will actually convert, He will change, He will reform their sayyat, their sins, into hasanat, into good deeds for them. Another ayah, وَالَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ وَآمَنُوا بِمَا نُزِّلَ عَلَى مُحَمَّدٍ وَهُوَ الْحَقُّ مِنْ رَبِّهِمْ كَفَّرَ عَنْهُمْ سَيِّئَاتِهِمْ وَأَصْلَحَ بَالَهُمْ. Those who are faithful and then they do good deeds and they actually have faith and believe in whatever it's been sent down to Prophet Muhammad, which is haqq, which is right, which is truth. كَفَّرَ عَنْهُمْ سَيِّئَاتِهِمْ وَأَصْلَحَ بَالَهُمْ. Again, what does Allah Almighty does for them? He changes, He converts, and He transforms like all of their bad and evil behavior to good acts. But I do have to underline that this is for those who are, mu'mins. وَالَّذِينَ آمَنُوا. We're not talking about everybody. Recite the salawat. Yet a third ayah, وَلَوْ أَنَّ أَهْلَ الْكِتَابِ آمَنُوا وَاتَّقَوْا لَكَفَّرْنَا عَنْهُمْ سَيِّئَاتِهِمْ وَلَأَدْخَلْنَاهُمْ جَنَّاتِ النَّعِيمِ. In the third ayah, Allah goes a little bit further. He starts talking about the Ahl al-Kitab, the Christians, the Jews, right? He says, if they would have agreed with you, if they would have believed in you, if they would have believed in what we have sent you, and وَاتَّقَوْا, and if they had taqwa, if they had this sense of varying of Allah, this sense of finding yourself at the presence of Allah 24/7, لَكَفَّرْنَا عَنْهُمْ سَيِّئَاتِهِمْ وَلَأَدْخَلْنَاهُمْ جَنَّاتِ النَّعِيمِ. We would have changed their deeds and actions from evil to good, and we would have entered them into paradise and heaven. Now, what about if you go down the hill? What about if he descends? Do we have again another ayah to back up the idea? Allah Almighty says, وَمَنْ يَكْفُرْ بِالْإِيمَانِ فَقَدْ حَبِطَ عَمَلُهُ وَهُوَ فِي الْآخِرَةِ مِنَ الْخَاسِرِينَ. The one who actually, renounces from the faith. So he's a mu'min, right? The next day he becomes, let's say, not mu'min. But he starts having his own opinion, his own beliefs, in his own imaginary world. What happens? فَقَدْ حَبِطَ عَمَلُهُ وَهُوَ فِي الْآخِرَةِ مِنَ الْخَاسِرِينَ. Allah will vanish whatever good he has done. And in the hereafter, he will be among the worst of the losers. Another ayah, مَنْ كَانَ يُرِيدُ الْحَيَاةَ الدُّنْيَا وَزِينَتَهَا نُوَفِّ إِلَيْهِمْ أَعْمَالَهُمْ فِيهَا وَهُمْ فِيهَا لَا يُبْخَسُونَ. Allah gives us criterion. He says those people, they're among you, right? But they only want what they see. They only want the zina. They only want the adornment. They only want the surface, right? مَنْ كَانَ يُرِيدُ الْحَيَاةَ الدُّنْيَا. They only want to live in the dunya for the dunya. They don't see the akhirah, right? Those people, نُوَفِّ إِلَيْهِمْ أَعْمَالَهُمْ فِيهَا وَهُمْ فِيهَا لَا يُبْخَسُونَ. Allah, what does He do? He changes their good deeds and He gives it back to them as the bounties in this life. He gives it back to them as the benefits of this dunya. For example, they get paid more. They get a better job, right? This is typical, like when we talk about material stuff. They get the right stuff all the time. They're always lucky. Nothing bad happens to them. Allah is telling us that don't get fooled by the appearance. A lot of times it's some of the good acts that they have performed, and Allah is changing those, and He's giving it back to them in a form of a bounty for this life, just for them to get clear. So when they depart from this world, they will go with only sins and misbehaviors. Then Allah continues, says, أُولَٰئِكَ الَّذِينَ لَيْسَ لَهُمْ فِي الْآخِرَةِ إِلَّا النَّارِ. The same people we talk about, when they go to hereafter, there is nothing for them except the hell. إِلَّا النَّارِ وَحَبِطَ مَا صَنَعُوا فِيهَا وَبَاطِلٌ مَا كَانُوا يَعْمَلُونَ. And whatever they have accomplished, all of it will get banished, will become batil, will become void, right? مَا كَانُوا يَعْمَلُونَ. Whatever they actually know, they think that they have performed, all of it will get vanished in just one split of second. Recite another salawat. I'll give you one more ayah, inshallah. We go to ahadith. This is in Surah Kaf 18, ayahs 103 to 105. Allah Almighty says, قُلْ هَلْ نُنَبِّئُكُمْ بِالْأَخْسَرِينَ أَعْمَالًا. Do you want to know of which act, which action is the worst of the action, right? الَّذِينَ ضَلَّ سَعْيُهُمْ فِي الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا وَهُمْ يَحْسَبُونَ أَنَّهُمْ يُحْسِنُونَ صُنْعًا. The worst of the worst, the losers of the losers, right, are those who actually try so hard, right, to make this dunya, to make this world like a better place for themselves. وَهُمْ يَحْسَبُونَ أَنَّهُمْ يُحْسِنُونَ صُنْعًا. And they think in their head that, oh, we're doing a good deed, we're doing a good conduct, we're benefiting ourselves, we're trying to make our life even better and easier. أُولَٰئِكَ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا بِآيَاتِ رَبِّهِمْ وَلِقَائِهِ. And these people, they don't believe in Allah Almighty, right? They're going against the will of Allah. They don't believe in meeting their Lord one day. فَحَبَطَتْ أَعْمَالُهُمْ فَلَا نُقِيمُ لَهُمْ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ وَزْنًا. So what does Allah do? He will vanish whatever they have done. He will vanish whatever they have accomplished. So in the hereafter, they will come out empty-handed. There is no, for example, weight of a'mal, weight of deeds for them in the hereafter when the resurrection comes. Recite another salawat. Now, let's go to ahadith. Do we have any ahadith in regards to this? Allah mashallah, Allah mashallah. We have so many. For example, one person comes and then he's talking to another companion whose name is Sufyan ibn Ayna, right? And then he says, I hear a narration from the Holy Prophet. Holy Prophet has told us when someone commits a mistake, when someone performs a sin, right? And then afterwards, when he does prayer, when he does salat, it becomes as if he has not committed any sin, right? It just gets cleared away, nothing's left. So this companion, he turns around, he says, Sallallahu Rasulullah, he actually said the truth, and he brings an ayah for it. He says, وَلَكِنْ ظَنَنْتُمْ أَنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يَعْلَمُ كَثِيرًا مِمَّا تَعْمَلُونَ وَذَلِكُمْ ظَنُّكُمْ. He says, the problem is, we don't believe in God truly or the way we should be. He said we always doubt God. We always have this sort of a stage of instability when it comes to God, when it comes to Allah Almighty. And that's the problem we have, right? As long as we have this doubt about God, as long as we have this feeling of distrust towards Allah Almighty, that's how we actually commit a sin. But if you have the trust in God, if you put all of our trust in God, we will never actually commit a sin, right? So, what can we say about a good act based on the riwayah that was just mentioned? You see, when we want to do a good act, what is a good act? A good act or a good action is something that has been, it actually pleases Allah Almighty. Allah's pleasure comes with this good act as well, right? If it has the anger of Allah, we say it's a sin, right? So if Allah's pleasure is within one act, we call that act as a good, as a decent act, right? And what does Allah pick for His servants, for us, for the abds, right? He loves all of us. So if He wants to pick an act for us to do, it will be an act that will get us closer and closer and closer to Him, right? So when we want to see how can we perform in life to actually continue this journey that, all these prophets, all these imams, all these scholars have come and gone, and, for the same message, that, oh, people, be aware of your God. Get to know your God. Get to know yourself. If you get to know yourself, you will realize that God actually exists, and you will start making that movement towards Him, right? We say all of it, if you want to put all of it in one sentence, is to do good with ikhlas. Not only do good without ikhlas, but do good with ikhlas, right? A lot of times quantity doesn't matter. It's about quality, right? As we were saying, you could have been doing a lot of bad behaviors, but one good salat is just going to wash everything off. And I'm not going to get to, for example, crying in the majalis. We have so many narrations on that part. Recite under salawat. Allah. Imam Sadiq alayhi salatu wassalam, he says, Salatul mu'mini bil layli tazhabu bima amila min dhanbin bin nahar. Number one, the prayer of the mu'min at night will actually wash out, will erase all of the sins that he has committed during the day, right? So during the day, it doesn't matter what you have committed. The Salatul mu'min fil layl, the prayer you do at night, it will wash out all of those. Number two, again, Imam Sadiq says, من سل ركعتين يعلم ما يقول فيهما انصرف وليس بينه وبين الله ذنب. The person who stands up and does 2 rak'ah prayer, only 2 rak'ah, right? And then he finishes the 2 rak'ah, there will be no sin between him and the Allah Almighty. I'll just open up parentheses here. When we say sin, this is a sin that is regarding to Allah, right? Because we have the haqqullah, which are the sins that is in comparison to Allah. Then we have the haqqun nas. Haqqun nas is a different story. We'll talk about that inshallah in another case. Even the shahada, the murderers, right? Everything gets, everything gets cleaned out except the haqqun nas. Haqqun nas is something that you have to go to the people and you have to ask them for permission, right? Allah is not able to actually, well, we cannot say He's not able, but it's the right of other people. So it's not just for Allah to come out and say, I'm going to forgive the rights of others for you. But that, inshallah, a different topic. Third, narrations. Holy Prophet says, إنما مثل الصلاة فيكم كمثل سري وهو النهر على باب أحدكم. Holy Prophet actually gives us a very good example. He says, you want to understand salat better? Imagine there is a river going by your house, right? It's passing by your front gate. يخرج إليه في اليوم والليلة يغتسل منه 5 مرات. So from morning till night that you go outside of your house, you go inside the river, you swim for 5 times every day. فَلَمْ يَبْغَ الدَّرَنُ مَعَ الْغُسْلِ 5 مرات. So if you do this 5 times a day, is there any dirt going to be, remaining on you, right? وَلَمْ تَبْغَ الذُّنُوبَ مَعَ الصَّلَاةِ 5 مرات. The same thing happens, the same thing applies when you pray 5 times a day. There will be no sins, no act of evil remaining within your soul. Again, Holy Prophet says, Allahumma gfirli wa la araka taf'al. He sees a person, Holy Prophet goes to a mosque and then he sees a person who's facing the Qibla and he's praying to Allah. He says, oh Allah, I'm repenting to you, please forgive me. But then the same person continues, he says, even though I think you're not going to forgive me, but I'm asking you to forgive me. This is what the guy is saying. Holy Prophet sees him and he tells him, لَمَا يَسُوءُ ظَنُّكَ قَالَ لَأَنِّي أَذْنَبْتُ فِي الْجَاهِلِيَّةِ وَالْإِسْلَامِ. Holy Prophet tells him, why are you doubting your Lord? Why are you saying, oh Allah, forgive me? And then right after you say, I know that you will not forgive me. Why? He says, because I committed sins in the Jahiliyyah and in Islam. Meaning I committed sins at the time of Jahiliyyah, at the time of ignorance, and even afterwards when I became a Muslim, I still continued, committing sins. فقال صلى الله عليه وآله أما ما أذنبت في الجاهلية فقد محاه الإيمان. He says it has two ways, right? Those sins that you have done during the time of Jahiliyyah, during the time of ignorance, by you saying Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah, Ashhadu anna Aliyan waliyullah, just by saying it, all of the sins are gone. كَأَن لَّمْ يَكُنْ. It's nothing left, right? وَمَا فَعَلْتَ فِي الْإِسْلَامِ الصَّلَاةُ إِلَى الصَّلَاةِ كَفَّارَةٌ مَا بَيْنَهُمَا. And the other sins after you became Muslim, right? The minute you do a salat, and then after that you do another salat, after that you do another salat, right? By every salat that you do, all these salats will be like as in charge or as in like in placement of your sins. So again, all of your sins will be forgiven. You say another salawat. Now I'll give you one narration from Imam Ali alayhi salatu wasalam. He comes up to his companions and he asks them this question. Out of the ayahs in the Quran, all the verses that we have in the Quran, which one do you think is the most hopeful and the most rewarding one? It's the most merciful one, if you want to say. So the companions, they start, recalling ayahs after ayahs. One person says, for example, ayah 48 of Nisa, إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يَغْفِرُ أَن يُشْرَكَ بِهِ وَيَغْفِرُ مَا دُونَ ذَلِكَ لِمَن يَشَاءُ. Meaning, indeed, Allah does not forgive that partners should be ascribed to Him, but He forgives anything besides that to whomever He wishes. So as long as we don't consider a partner for Allah, Allah will erase and forgive all of our sins. He says this ayah, I think, is the most merciful ayah. Amir al-Mu'mineen says, Ahsant, but this is not it. You said well, but this is not the ayah that I'm looking for. There is something higher than this. So the second person stands up. He says, again, the same surah, Nisa, ayah 110. وَمَنْ يَعْمَلْ سُوءًا أَوْ يَظْلِمْ نَفْسَهُ ثُمَّ يَسْتَغْفِرُ اللَّهَ يَجِدِ اللَّهَ غَفُورًا رَحِيمًا. Whoever commits evil or wrongs himself and then pleads to Allah for forgiveness will find Allah all forgiving, all merciful. So again, the second person stands up and says, I think this ayah is the most merciful because whoever does bad, as long as he repents, Allah will forgive him. Again, Amir al-Mu'mineen says, very good job, but this is not the ayah that I'm looking for. Go higher. Third person stands up. He says, Surah Zumar, 39th Surah, ayah 53. قُلْ يَا عِبَادِيَ الَّذِينَ أَسْرَفُوا عَلَىٰ أَنفُسِهِمْ لَا تَقْنَطُوا مِنْ رَحْمَةِ اللَّهِ إِنَّ اللَّهَ يَغْفِرُ الذُّنُوبَ جَمِيعًا إِنَّهُ هُوَ الْغَفُورُ الرَّحِيمُ. O my servants who have committed excesses against their own souls, do not despair of the mercy of Allah. Indeed, Allah will forgive all sins. Indeed, He is the all-forgiving, the all-merciful. So we went one step higher, right? Whoever has committed, who has overdone something, he says all of it will be forgiven. But then again, Imam Ali tells him, again, this is a good ayah, but this is not what I'm looking for. Continue, go higher. Here comes the last person, and he recites actually two ayahs, right? They're pretty long. Surah Al-Imran, the second surah, ayahs 135 and 136. وَالَّذِينَ إِذَا فَعَلُوا فَاحِشَةً أَوْ ظَلَمُوا أَنفُسَهُمْ ذَكَرُوا اللَّهَ فَاسْتَغْفَرُوا لِذُنُوبِهِمْ وَمَنْ يَغْفِرُ الذُّنُوبَ إِلَّا اللَّهُ وَلَمْ يُصِرُّوا عَلَى مَا أُولَٰئِكَ جَزَاؤُهُم مَغْفِرَةٌ مِّن رَّبِّهِمْ. And those who, when they commit an indecent act or wrong themselves, they remember Allah and plead to Allah, and Allah will forgive their sins, right? Again, Amir al-Mu'mineen says, no, this is not the ayah I'm looking for. Go higher. Then the companions say, oh Ali, we don't know anymore. Ayahs that will be has a lot of amount of mercy within the ayah, will be rewarding, it will be so hopeful in a sense that if you just recite it, will become hopeful towards the hereafter. Then Imam says, it's the ayah 114 of Surah Hud, the 11th Surah of the Quran. وَأَقِمِ الصَّلَاةَ طَرَفَ النَّهَارِ وَزُلَفًا مِنَ اللَّيْلِ إِنَّ الْحَسَنَاتِ يُذْهِبْنَ السَّيِّئَاتِ ذَلِكَ ذِكْرَىٰ لِلذَّاكِرِينَ. The very same ayah which I recited at the beginning of this discussion that we have today, that just maintain the prayer during the day and at night, and this prayer will get all of your evil behavior, all of your sins, all of your mistakes erased as there is nothing left. Lady Zainab talks about narrations from Iilm, which was one of the wives of the prophets. It says, she told me that one day Lady Fatima al-Zahra actually had made some food for the Holy Prophet, right? So Holy Prophet had come to their house. So as she brought out the food, Amir al-Mu'minin comes to the house with a plate full of dates as well. And Ayman, she comes in with some milk and some butter. So they put all of them, at the sufra, they all sit down and they're enjoying a good family meal together. So Holy Prophet, when he sees this, he becomes very happy, right? And then the Ayman narrates that all of a sudden I noticed that Holy Prophet looked or glanced at the sky, towards the sky for a little bit, then he performed the sujood. He went to prostration, and then when he went to prostration, he started crying. He started crying so hard that everybody in the house became sad. So when he lifted his head up, Amir al-Mu'minin and Lady Fatima al-Zahra, they went to him and they say, "O Prophet of Allah, O Rasulullah, what happened? Your cry makes our hearts broken. What happened to you?" Then the Holy Prophet tells him, "When I saw this gathering of my Ahlul Bayt, I became very happy. So I thanked Allah Almighty. But when I went to sujood, Gabriel came to me. He told me from Allah Almighty that we have actually acknowledged your thankfulness for the Ahlul Bayt, and we are going to complete this bounty on you, meaning not only your Ahlul Bayt, but their friends and their followers. All of them will join you in the heaven in hereafter. But," then Gabriel continues, "be aware that this Ahlul Bayt that you see will be butchered and will be killed by the most ignorant people of all time, by those who they think that they're part of your ummah, they're part of your nation, but they have absolutely nothing to do with you." Then Gabriel points to Amir al-Mu'minin and says, Amir al-Mu'minin Imam Ali alayhi salatu wasalam, he gets actually killed by the worst of the worst people, by the wicked of the wicked people, by the cursed, one of the, of the cursed people, similar to the one who actually killed the camel of Prophet Salih. Then he points to Abu Abdullah Hussein, and he says, Imam Hussein alayhi salatu wasalam, not alone, but along with family members. Not only that, but along with companions and true friends, and some of the great scholars, some of the great figures of Islam of that time, they will all be killed by a group of ignorance, and they will get butchered just as you cut out a piece of paper by scissor. So this is why I am crying. Sallallahu alayka ya Aba Abdullah. Sallallahu alayka ya Aba Abdullah. Let's go to the land of Karbala. Let's go to the day of Ashura. When you look around, there are not that many people left behind. You see two men standing between an army of enemy and the caravan filled with children and women. You see that they've been held there for 8 days. Imagine if you go on a trip and you've been held in one position for 8 days. You cannot go forward, you cannot go backward. Even more, you cannot have any water. So two men, they're just standing there, they're looking at each other, they look around, no one's there. Habib is gone, Zuhair is gone, Muslim is gone, Qasim is gone. All these companions, all these true soldiers of Islam, they all have been gone. You look at the caravans, you see a lot of innocent children and women, what they have witnessed over the past couple of hours in the day of Ashura. They have witnessed their men entering the battlefield and not returning. They have witnessed the Bani Hashim, the sons of Hashim, the relatives of the Holy Prophet, going to the battlefield and getting killed with no mercy. So now it's the time for the one named Abbas. He comes to Imam Hussein alayhi salatu wasalam. He wants to ask for permission. The minute Imam Hussein lays eye on Abbas, he tells him, "You are the person who holds my flag. If I send you to the battlefield, who is going to hold my flag?" Abbas tells him, O Imam Hussein, I cannot bear this anymore. I cannot bear seeing all these people bothering you and taking advantage of your infallibility. Let me go and fight with them. The minute he says that, here comes the voices from the tents. The children, they're saying, Al-Atash, Al-Atash, Al-Mai, Al-Mai. We are thirsty, we are thirsty. Is there any water for us? Imam tells Abbas, if you want to go to the battlefield, first go and get some water for the kids. Hazrat Abbas says, okay, and then he heads towards the river. He cuts through the enemy very easily, and he starts talking to Umar Asad. He says, this is Hussein. This is the son of Fatima. You have killed all of his companions. You have killed all of his supporters, right? So at least give him some water, not for him, but for the kids. You have taken the water for 3 days now. The thirst is actually chewing up their liver. Give some water to them. Some of the enemies, based on the narrations, actually start crying by hearing this. They start realizing what they have done. But Shamr, that Mal'un, he replies quickly and he says, O Abbas, O the son of Ali, if the entire earth becomes water in our hand, we will not give you a drop of it unless if you bow and pay your respect to Yazid la'natullah alayhi. So Abbas continues his journey. He continues breaking through the army towards the river. He makes it to the river, he enters the river, he puts the bag of water to get filled up, he takes his palm, he takes a palm of water up. As he's about to drink it, فَذَكَرَ عَطَشَ الْحُسَيْنِ. The minute he brings up the water to drink it, he remembers his brother is thirsty. He recites, يَا نَفْسِي مِنْ بَعْدَ الْحُسَيْنِ حُونِي وَبَعْدَهِ لَا كُنْتُ أَنْ تَكُونِي. O nafs, O Abbas, how are you going to live after Hussein? How are you going to exist after Hussein? هذا الحسين وارد المنون وتشربين بارد المعين تالله ما هذا فعال ديني. O Abbas, Hussein is facing death. Hussein is facing death by thirst. How can you think of drinking water? Oh Allah, oh Tallah, I swear to God, this is not my faith. This is not how I act. So he fills up the bag of water and he heads back towards the tent. As he's going back towards the tent, the army blocks his way. Now the battle actually becomes very heavy. As he's fighting his way through, some person was hiding behind one of the palm trees. He comes from the behind and he hits Abbas on the right arm. The right arm falls on the ground. He continues his journey. He says, لا أرهب الموت إذا الموت زقا حتى أواري في المسالي تلقى نفسي لسبت المصطفى إني أنا العباس أغدو بالصفا والله إن قطعتم يميني إني أحامي عبدا عن ديني. If you cut out my right arm, I will continue with my left. I will continue supporting my faith with my left hand. So he continues rushing towards the tent as he knows the battle is becoming more difficult. Now he doesn't have a right arm. He continues more, but another person comes again from another hiding, and he hits Abbas on the left arm. The left arm falls on the ground as well. At this point, all Abbas is thinking is just to get the water to the tents. For the one last time, get the water to those kids who are saying Al-Atash, Al-Atash, Al-Atash. Now the army sees Abbas without hands. Now the army sees Abbas without a sword. Now the army sees Abbas without a spear. So they say, attack him while you can. Here comes the shower of arrows. You can see arrows coming left and right, left and right. Everybody's aiming at something. Those who have an arrow, they throw an arrow. Those who have spears, they throw spears. Those who have stones and rocks, they throw stones and rocks. One of the arrows hit Abbas in the eyes. One arrow hits them in the chest. But the important arrow is the one who cuts through the water bag. Oh Abbas, oh Abbas, oh Abbas. As the arrow cuts through the water bag, he loses his hope. He doesn't see any point in going back anymore. How is he going to face the children if they're going to ask for the water? So he's just there as he doesn't know what to do. Another person approaches him and he hits him very hard with a metal piece on the head. Here comes Abbas falling down from the horse. But I'd like to ask you this. If you're falling down from the horse and if you have no hands, how would you land? If you have no hands to take out those arrows, how would you land? If you have no hands to defend yourself, how would you land? He hits the ground and he shouts, Alayka minni salam, Ya Aba Abdullah. When he hits the ground, he says, Oh Abu, here's my salam to you, but it's my last salam. The narrators say Imam Hussein rushes towards his brother Abbas. He pushes off the enemy aside. He gets to Abbas. He comes next to his body lying on the ground. He finds him covered in blood. He finds arms. He finds him blind. He finds him broken head and broken chest. He finds him as if he's like a piece of meat and butchered into pieces. But yet again, he's filled with light. He sits next to him. He starts crying. And he says, Alan inkasara dhahri wa qallat hilati. Now my back is broken. Now my only supporter is gone. Now I have no other choice. Oh Abu Abdullah. He leaves the body there. I don't know why, but he leaves the body there. He heads back towards the tent while he's looking down, and he's wiping the tears from his face using his sleeve. As he reaches the tent, here comes Sakina. Here comes the daughter of Imam Hussein. He says, Oh Imam Hussein, where is my uncle? Where is Abbas? Where is Abbas? Where is Abbas? Imam Hussein looking down and crying, he doesn't answer. Sakina starts saying again, Oh, we don't want water anymore. Oh, we're not thirsty anymore. Where is our uncle? We just want our uncle. We just want our Abbas. Where is Abbas? Where is Abbas? Where is Abbas? Lady Zainab comes out. She realizes what's happening. She starts cursing the enemy. وَسَيَعْلَمُ الَّذِينَ ظَلَمُوا أَيَّ مُنْقَلِبٍ يَنْقَلِبُونَ إِنَّا لِلَّهِ وَإِنَّا إِلَيْهِ راجعون. Let's do a ziyarah of Hazrat Abbas alayhi salatu wa salam together. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. السلام عليك أيها العبد الصالح المطيع لله ولرسوله والأمير المؤمنين والحسن والحسين أشهد أنك قد قتلت مظلوما لعن الله من قتلك ولعن الله من ظلمك ولعن الله من حال بينك مع الفرات. السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفنائك. عليك مني سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار ولا جعله الله آخر العهد مني لزيارتكم. Everybody together. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين. One more time. السلام على وعلى علي بن وعلى أولاد وعلى أصحاب الحسين. اللهم إنا نسألك وندعوك باسمك العظيم الأعظم الأعز الأجل الأكرم إلهي بحق محمد وعلي وفاطمة والحسن والحسين وتسعة المعصومين من ذرية الحسين. يا الله sometimes يا الله يا الله يا الله يا الله يا الله. اللهم عجل وليك الفرج اللهم عجل وليك الفرج اللهم عجل وليك الفرج واجعلنا من أعوانه وأنصاره وشيعته. O Allah, we hasten the appearance of our Imam Zaman. O Allah, put us among true companions and followers of our Imam Zaman. O Allah, on this blessed night, forgive all of our past sins. O Allah, give us the blessings of becoming good and better person every day. O Allah, forgive the sins of our past ones and relatives. O Allah, have some of the rewards from this majalis being sent to their souls and their spirits in the hereafter. O Allah, we'll ask you humbly not to take us from this world before and unless if you are happy with all of our actions. O Allah, continue to guide us through the lights of the Quran and the Ahlul Bayt. O Allah, we'll ask you humbly to grant us the blessings of their ziyarah in this dunya and their shafa'ah intercession in the hereafter. O Allah, we'll ask you to take us from this world at the stage of Iman and the Mu'min. Let's recite Surah Hamd, Surah Fatiha after reciting aloud Salawat.
Found one phone.
you.